All right, welcome back, everyone. So it's 1 o'clock, and we're going to start with our first session. This is the Road Conference. If you're just joining us, reaching out to aspiring doctors. Thank you for being here. My name is Emmy Phillips, and I'm your facilitator. Just want to send a reminder that this session will be recorded. If you have any questions, please add your questions to the chat feature, and we will answer them as they come in at the end of the presentation. The session title for today, for this time, is Successful Mentoring Strategies. Dr. Charles J. Alexander is the Associate Vice Provost and Director of the Academic Advancement Program at UCLA. He is also an adjunct professor of public health and an authority on health professions pipeline programs. His research focuses on workforce diversity in the health professions and barriers to health careers. Welcome, Dr. Alexander. We're so excited to have you join us today for the Road Conference, and I will let you share your screen and take on from here.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy, for that brief, wonderful introduction. I always tell people, my mother would be proud of that introduction, because it really hypes me up. And my dad would shake his head because he still can't believe what I'm doing today. But anyways, thank you all, and I'm glad and happy to be a part of this program. And I hope that so far you've all gotten some wisdom, some nuggets of education that's going to help you and propel you into your respective careers. And so I'm going to I'll go ahead and see if I can get my screen going to get our slides up. There you go. So as indicated, I was asked to speak, and I've asked to speak on successful mentoring strategies that help students with navigating and negotiating their career tracks into the health professions, particularly if you're looking at medical or dental or pharmacy or PA or whatever it may be. There definitely needs to be some mentoring that takes place and that will be useful and helpful for you. Let me just give you a little bit of my background, and then I'll get into the talk itself. And be able to share slides and then answer some questions. So as was mentioned earlier, I am an administrator at UCLA. As you can see on the slide, though, I'm taking pride today of being director of a program called High Aims. High Aims stands for High Achievement in Math and Science, and it's really a program to help pre-health students prepare themselves for careers in the health profession. It's considered a cohort program because we take small groups of students each year, and they can stay in the program for up to 3 years to help them prepare for applications and for a health career. And so with that, and the reason we did that program and to help you understand the rationale behind it is because a study we commissioned and we participated, or I should say we did meet some colleagues of mine at UCSF. We did this study to look at where students were having challenges in the academic pipeline. And as you all know, there are these things called gateway courses, and these gateway courses tend to be sometimes hurdles and barriers for students. There's that whole myth about organic chem or general chem being the weeder course. But what we wanted to do is find out where were students having problems. And so we did a big study, 15,000 students from CSUs and UCs, and what we were able to determine when we broke it down by ethnicity, gender, we realized there were certain groups that weren't being successful as others, and we tried to figure out what could be some of the factors that are prohibiting them or keeping them from getting to that point. And what we realized is not only the academic preparation, because when we adjusted for that, and what we mean by that, even if you came from a high-performing school and you were from an underrepresented background, you still were having challenges in these gateway courses at those respective universities. And so the question became, what do we need to do to help these students become successful? And the answer was, well, we need to provide interventions not only in the first year of college, but throughout the college process. And so that led to the creation of a program called High Aims, which some of the key elements in that program are not only the academic support or the peer learning that students get, but also the mentoring. And we felt that the mentoring was so crucial, and not just mentoring from healthcare providers, but mentoring from students who are currently in the process of becoming healthcare providers. So in other words, medical students, dental students, pharmacy students, students that have gone through the undergraduate experience and can share their knowledge and their background and their experiences so that they can help undergraduates and students like yourself become successful. And I'll talk about that in a moment as we get through these slides, okay? So I'm going to give you an introduction, which, I've done my introduction. Talk about what is a mentor, some objectives of mentoring, the types of mentoring that take place, and where do you find a mentor? And how long should this mentoring interchange or interaction, how long should that occur? And then skills, because it's one thing to find a mentor and work with a mentor, but you also want to have a skillful mentor, someone that actually has either experience, knowledge, or even an attitude about being a good mentor. And then I put on here, how do we develop successful mentoring programs? Because this was also a presentation I did recently for a group of teachers who were trying to develop a mentoring program. And then we'll have some Q&A at the end. So when we talk about mentors, what is a mentor or what is mentoring? We're talking about a wise and trusted counselor or a teacher, somebody who's influential, who could be your sponsor or supporter, or someone who acts, as the verb says, as a mentor. And so I would ask you, if we were in person, to write a one-word sentence that defines mentoring for yourself. And so you would, identify whatever it may be, a person, a friend, a sponsor, or whatever you felt would describe that relationship that you had with that person, and whether or not you would consider that to be a mentoring experience for you. But the technical sense, or the definition, we can look at mentoring being as a collaborative, mutual, beneficial partnership between you and a mentee and a mentor. So in other words, they have to have skills, knowledge, and experience. And in some cases, you may be the protege, the one who is seeking to increase your knowledge, skills, and experience. And so mentoring kind of has that dual relationship, that interaction between the two people for the benefit of learning, gaining knowledge, and gaining experience. The keywords in the definition that I want to just highlight for you are this partnership, not a relationship between an employee and an immediate supervisor. We're not talking about that. We're really talking about a really true partnership, so that you can have a dialogue and exchange that's open and supportive. And even though there's an inequality in skills between someone with knowledge and experience, the partnership still is equal. I mean, you're still two people, providing something, receiving something. And then both parties need to agree to that relationship, and both parties are responsible for success. And we'll talk about what success means in a mentoring relationship. But again, it's a partnership. It's not someone supervising you or someone being over you, trying to do something that really limits the opportunity for growth. So again, this collaborative partnership, the mentor and the protege have to work together to achieve and to determine what kind of partnership they want to have, and then what are the goals or the aims of your partnership, so that when you do meet, you have a purpose for meeting. And we'll talk a little bit about how that evolves as well. So the objectives of mentoring is, and some of you may know this already, and you may have your own objectives, but some of the basic objectives is really to provide an atmosphere of friendship and learning, provide some instruction on a specific skill. You might want someone to mentor you for that purpose. I'm trying to learn how to play a guitar, so somebody's mentoring me on, managing how to do strings and things of that nature. provide challenges, assignments, or critiques, or encouragement and support to allow time and space for growth, not time for constraint, and to assist you in developing projects, assignments, using technology, or learning more about a respective profession. So there's some objectives that we have to think about when we're in a mentoring relationship. And there's different types of mentoring. There's natural mentoring. Sometimes people gravitate towards people naturally for the sake of learning who they are, what they're doing, and what they want to do. That happened to me when I was young. I found a pediatrician who was our family pediatrician, and he was just a charismatic person. And I just naturally gravitated towards him. And I wanted him to, share with me his experience, give me advice, guide me in my educational pathway, and so forth. There's situational mentoring, because sometimes a situation might present itself where you either need a mentor or you're in a situation where a mentor is going to support you through an experience. And situational mentoring sometimes occurs in business a lot, because there's a project you're working on, it's a specific situation you're in, you need the advice of a mentor to help you, guide you through what it is you need to get done. We talked about supervisory mentors. Some people want someone to supervise them as they plan their journey into their particular career. So this is a person that you would check back in on. How am I doing? You're getting the guidance, you're getting supervision. They may tell you need to shift left, shift right, or you need to get this information or that information. And then there's this formal facilitated mentoring. We see these in professional settings or work settings where people will sit down and do agreements. And sometimes there are programs where there are incentives or stipends, for example. They're very formal. Higher education has a lot of these kind of programs, for example. And then group versus individual mentoring. You might find group mentoring when you're in a situation. The thing that comes to mind for me is like an exercise class. And you're trying to build either your endurance or you're trying to gain new nutritional skills. And so you're in a group. And so the group does certain things. There's a group leader, there's someone that's mentoring the group and so forth. Or it can also work on an individual level, where you actually receive that same kind of support and have that same or that similar type of interaction. So where do you find mentors? You can find mentors in different realms. Outstanding performance in organizations. So for example, if you're working in a health organization or you work in education, there are people who tend to be leaders, or they tend to shine, they tend to stand out. And maybe that person is someone you would like to connect with and have them serve as a mentor for you. Leaders in professional organizations. When I was, and I continue to do this, as I grew in my profession, there were leaders in professional organizations that I looked up to, and I want to have them serve as a mentor for me. So sometimes I reached out to them, and I still do, to help guide me in my career decision making. College alumni. If some of you are attending college right now, or you're in college, your alumni office definitely has a list of people that have a variety of skill sets, backgrounds, career interests, and that office, I'm sure, would be very helpful and useful in identifying someone to serve as a mentor for you. College alumni always want to get back, so it's certainly something you may want to pursue. Referral through friends. A friend of yours might know someone that has the same interests as you do, that's basically in a leadership role or in a position that they can share their skills and their knowledge with you. And so friends can help you. In fact, a lot of friends have helped me and referred me to mentors. And of course, the most obvious one people sometimes don't think about, and sometimes they do, is your family healthcare provider. Your physician, your nurse, your dentist, your physician assistant, or whoever it may be. Believe it or not, they seem to be busy, and they are very busy, but they also are interested in continuing to support the profession, particularly with people who are interested in going into the profession. And so they will make time for you, whether it's online through a phone call or just for a brief time during a month or a week. they're the most obvious people to seek mentorship from. And so I would certainly reach out to, you know, any of these folks to, to seek mentorship from. So when you're in a mentoring relationship, you know, because people always ask questions about, well, how long should we continue the mentoring relationship? How long should it be? How should we prepare for it? So at a minimum, you know, mentors and mentees should meet regularly, at least 4 hours per month for at least a year. You know, that's kind of a standard. Some people meet more. Some people, you know, will carry it on for more than a year. And like I mentioned earlier, some of my mentorship relationships have definitely been longer than a year. And for programs like school-based mentoring, you know, expectations for duration really need to be clear to the mentee from the outset. So, you know, you and the mentee and the mentor, I should say, should make it clear from the beginning, like how often should we meet? You know, where should we meet? How much time should we spend meeting? Those things should be laid out because that's the relationship you're building and also the agreement that you're building to sustain and to have this mentoring relationship between you and your mentor. And I mentioned earlier about skills, you know, in terms of mentoring, who makes a good mentor and what kind of skills should they have? And this is something you should look for because a lot of times some people would like to be mentors, but sometimes they may not have the skill set to be mentors. They mean well and they have good intentions, but students sometimes come back and say, you know, I'm not fulfilled through this relationship with my mentor. What should I do? Well, as you could tell, strong interpersonal skills, you know, mentors both talk and listen to people. So it's not a mentor just talking to you, telling you what to do on, but it's also a mentor that's going to listen to you. Because sometimes the listening is not necessarily about the career and the profession itself. It could be a situation that you're in, or a problem that you're dealing with, or a concern that you have, or a question, a big question that you might want to pose to your mentor. And so mentors will listen. You must believe people are capable of improving. So the your mentor should look at you as though you have this ability to grow. You know, and that's important. Their involvement, you know, the network of peers and resources which can be used to help you as the mentee. You know, what is their professional involvement? I mean, does it go beyond the scope of their job? Do they have colleagues that, for example, if you're in medicine and you're interested in, say, pediatrics, or you're interested in orthopedic surgery, do they have a network where you can talk to these folks about that particular discipline? And then, of course, you know, they should have excellent supervisory skills, be able to manage people well. So, you know, because they may have more than one mentee, they may have a number of mentees, which many professional people tend to have sometimes. But can they manage their people well so that they're giving you the quality time that you need, and you have that quality relationship when you're spending time with your mentor? And of course, you know, technical and professional competence is important, you know, knowing what they're doing, their job, you know, as far as having thorough knowledge of it. I call the next thing personal power. You know, mentors should have a high self-esteem and others seek their opinions. In other words, you know, if you have a mentor where people always come to them and they ask questions, whether they're colleagues, friends, or even family members, you could tell that they have a lot of prestige and a lot of influence on people, and people look up to them. And most leaders, people do look up to a certain extent. And so they have high self-esteem, and so people they want information from you. And of course, you know, the motivation to maintain their own interest in the profession through the relationship with you as a mentor. You know, that's important. There's actually training, believe it or not, for mentors. And I've done training with professional people, and as I mentioned earlier, teachers who wanted to be mentors and successful mentors or effective mentors. And so some mentors will go through training, and you'll see this sometimes at organizations like hospitals or health maintenance organizations, where they might have a volunteer program for mentors, not only just for mentees or for volunteers, but training is very important for a mentor. There's roles that mentors can play, and or they might play, you know, and I mentioned some of this earlier. They could be advisors, they could be coaches, they could be explainers, you know, trying to help you understand, you know, what's going on. It could be technical knowledge or whatever it may be. They could be protectors. You know, when I was in grad school, my mentor was a protector because people would ask me these crazy questions during my dissertation, and he would stand up and say, you know, we're not here to talk about that. You know, we're here to talk about something different. We're focusing on the project at hand here. So you might need a protector sometime, or a sponsor. You know, mentor sometimes sponsors you. They look out for you. They see opportunities that you could be a part of, you could participate in. There might be scholarships, fellowships, or programs that you can get into, and they certainly will refer you, or sometimes they will even talk to the program director and say, I have this great mentee that I think would really benefit from the program, but also can contribute to the program. And of course, validators, you know, someone to really validate the reason why and you're pursuing what you're doing. And you do want people to have a relationship with you that could be honest and open about what you're trying to do and validate your not only your existence, but your choices, the things that you're trying to do. Let me just kind of zoom in on some rules for effective mentoring, because you know you want a mentoring relationship that's going to work for you, and it's going to be effective, it's going to be productive. And so the first is rapport and trust, because you have to build trust between you and your mentor, you know. And how do you do that? And that's really getting to know each other, building a relationship, having a rapport that's somewhat easy. You want to have clear expectations in terms of how this relationship is going to work. As I mentioned earlier, you set goals, or you might want to plan a strategy for achieving your goals, or write down what has been mutually agreed upon as well, so that you know you're going to meet every Tuesday between 5 and 6, you know, whether it's through Zoom, which is probably what it's going to be these days, Zoom, or whether it's by phone call, or sometimes maybe in person, of course, being physically distanced and all the things that you need to do, wear a mask. But the thing is, you have to have an agreement, and you have to keep your relationship strictly professional. That's really the hallmark of good mentoring, I believe. So I would ask sometimes, or ask you, you know, identify a favorite or most influential mentor in your life and why. I'm sure all of us have had mentors. Some of us had more than one. Some of us continue to have more than one. And you know, why are they your favorite person? You know, why they seem to be most influential to you in your life, and why? Um, you know, if I was to answer the question, I would say, you know, one of my favorite mentors is someone from graduate school who I've kept up with over the years. And not only have they been a good mentor, they've been a good friend. You know, that whole rapport building, relationship building, and not only that, but they have seen opportunities, and they watch my career grow. And because of that, when things come up that they feel I could benefit from, whether it's a program, whether it's a service, you know, whatever it may be, they refer me, or they share the information with me. That to me is a great mentor, because they're trying to help me build my career and helping me grow. I'm towards the end of my presentation, but I just wanted to let you know what I do in AAP as director, and we have a whole unit that focuses on mentoring. And we provide these services for students who are traditionally had limited access to graduate professional school advising. And so we have you think about graduate school or professional school. We assist people with the application process. We provide research and internship opportunities. We help students with personal statements. We try to prepare you for the standardized exams, whether it's MCAT, LSAT, GREs, whatever it may be. And we try to provide opportunities to meet and interact with faculty and career professionals. You know, a mentoring program as opposed to a mentor, because some people may not have access to a mentor, but a program such as this will help them and help them get there. And it's never too late, you know, as I see at the bottom of the slide, to think about going to graduate or professional school. These are some of the programs that we offer. Some are education. There's high aims, as I mentioned earlier. Some are geared towards education. And some students want to get into research for the first time. And so we have those kind of programs as well. And so I want to leave you with this quote, this little quote by Benet. It says, it's not always just people who start out the smartest who end up the smartest. And I share that because, you know, that's true. Some people may not start out the smartest, but they will end up the smartest. And sometimes that smartness is attributed to the relationship that they build with a mentor. Okay, because again, the additional knowledge, the experience, and the background of the person that you're going to be mentored with, it certainly will help prepare you for your career, but also propel you into your career and beyond. Because mentors, in many cases, tend to stay with you, sometimes for a lifetime. So, anyways, I want to thank you for again allowing me to be a part of this program, and be happy to answer any questions that you might have on mentoring or the work that I do or anything that relates to this particular topic.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alexander. I will be reviewing the chat and will um, verbalize any questions they may have. So we'll give them a few moments to start typing them in the chat. First question we have, how can we look into the APP program?
So if you're at UCLA, it's really a matter of just going online, looking at the website. If you are not at UCLA, go to our website. It's aap.ucla.edu, and you can learn a lot about what we do with students and about the program itself. So.
We have another question of what advice do you have for high school students? We do have some in the audience.
That's where I really started with my mentorship. Like, as I mentioned, when I was in high school, it was my pediatrician that really excited me about considering a career in medicine. And so that's one thing you can do if you have a pediatrician. And it's not like I had a family doctor. I'm talking about a clinic that we used to visit, and that same doctor was at that clinic. And so for me to ask them questions, to even volunteer, and later on I got a job as a admitting clerk at the hospital that the uh, pediatrician worked at. So I would definitely seek out mentors either through my healthcare providers or even through my teachers. Teachers are great mentors. And if you have friends who have siblings in college or pursuing graduate and professional school, again, there's your friendship connection to hopefully a great mentor.
That kind of segues into the next question of, so your mentor should not be your parent or family member? Question.
Um, Not, I would say not if you're pursuing a particular career. I mean, family members are different kinds of mentor. They're like life mentors, if you think about it, in terms of what life is all about. I mean, they would be great mentors from that standpoint. But I think if you're looking at a particular career, you want the knowledge and experience of a mentor to be able to ask and answer questions that they may have about the career or profession that you're seeking. So I would, I would certainly not depend on a family member unless they are a physician. But again, they're going to also probably steer you towards someone else because they have their own personal bias.
Question, how do you know when a mentor is not for you, or if they aren't truly invested in you versus are just simply busy?
That's a very good question because it's something that we will probably experience, and I have experienced personally. And when you know when a mentor is not for you, when number one, um, they seem to be too busy and don't have time for you. That's why I mentioned in the slide presentation to have an agreement. It's good to have an agreement. It could be verbal, it could be on paper, but you want to make sure you have an agreement that you're going to meet at a certain time, day, place, and that there's certain goals that you're trying to achieve every time that you meet with them. So it's always good to go to a mentoring session with a question or, a conversation about what your week was like and what you experienced or what kind of things that you saw or you witnessed that reinforce your interest in your particular career. So that's one, that maybe the attention, not having enough time for you. The other is when a mentor just tends to dominate conversations, or maybe they're sharing things with you that don't seem to be of interest to you. Maybe that's not what you were expecting in that kind of relationship. And it's not unusual for someone to say, that to really tell the mentor, what it is that you're looking for, because they might say, you know what, I have a colleague or a friend that might be better suited for this relationship. So you just keep your eyes open. And hopefully I can send my slides, and I don't mind sharing them with you. And you can go ahead and continue to get some of the information from the slides that'll help you with that question.
We have a question of, is there any way I could contribute to AAP as an alumna? I'd love to get involved in mentoring.
Of course, you know, you can always connect with us. I put a website address in the chat. There is, I think there's a space on our webpage that talks about alumni connection. We have an alumni council. We have an alumni affinity group, you know, where we bring people back from who graduated from UCLA and want to be a part of the AAP, or we have friends of AAP, people that are not graduates of UCLA who just want to contribute their time, their skills, and serve as mentors to our students. So yes, I certainly would welcome you as a colleague and mentor.
There's a question in regards to a homeschooled student. Is it different for homeschoolers when looking for a mentor?
You know, it could be. It could be from a homeschool student. It could be what we're doing now. It could be a Zoom. It could be a chat. It could be a Duo. I mean, you know, the Duo programs on Microsoft are pretty good at reaching out to people. And it may be sometimes correspondence. It could be email or just writing a letter. But there are people out there, for example, that you may want to be a mentor of yours, and because you're homeschooled and you don't have access to them, or you can't meet them, particularly now in this pandemic that we're dealing with, that you might want to reach out by email and let them know what your interest is. Because believe it or not, sometimes you know, the corresponding back and forth via email or messaging or whatever is just as effective as being in person. And sometimes people have more time to sit down and write something and respond to questions that you may have or give you guidance, as opposed to taking the time out, getting on Zoom and having a conversation. So homeschooling, definitely there's ways that you can connect and still have that mentoring relationship.
Okay, it looks like we're going to unmute one of our participants. Pause if you can go ahead and unmute for the question.
Venice, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. I really would like to hear your advice on starting a mentoring program for high school students who are particularly interested in pursuing healthcare professional careers. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. You know, first of all, definitely, it sounds like you have an interested group of students and enough interest in a particular career. And what I would do is certainly reach out to some of the local care providers, clinics, hospitals, even some of the educational facilities. I don't know where you're located at, but some of the hospitals have volunteer programs, not just for people to volunteer, but for some of their workers to volunteer to help schools and to help students and universities. For example, we reach out to our hospital and we get volunteers from the hospital to be part of our mentoring programs at UCLA. So that I would certainly try to start there. Or sometimes I mentioned in the slide presentation about group mentoring, maybe having one individual that you can rely on to be a mentor to the group. And sometimes this could be a care provider, or it could be a health profession student. Health profession students love to mentor undergraduates and high school students. And so if you know of someone, or you can establish a relationship with a program that students are looking to mentor younger students, that would be one of the great ways to go, and one of the ways that I would suggest that you start your program. And again, I'll be happy to share slides so that you can at least have some background information about that.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This question, actually, it stems off, there's a number of questions about approaching a mentor. So I'll read the one, but there's many that kind of go along with this question. And that is, what is the best way to reach out to someone for their advice or help as a mentor? For example, what would be the best way to send an email to a doctor who you might appreciate advice from or help as a mentor?
That's a great question. That's, you know, first of all, I would not be shy And I would not give up, because sometimes people are very busy and they don't respond right away. I get those questions a lot, in terms of people reaching out to me, for example, and want me to mentor them in some capacity, as either an advisor to health profession students or someone who's interested in pursuing higher education, like I have, and they want a career in that. So I would definitely reach out to them via email, a nice email introducing yourself, letting them know who you are, the kind of things that you've done to heighten your interest in that particular career, and the kind of relationship you want to establish. Would they be willing to either email chat with you once a week, or would they be willing to answer questions? And as you develop that relationship, and hopefully as we move out of this pandemic, it could also lead to an opportunity to do some shadowing, or some volunteering in the worksite with that particular mentor. But certainly identifying someone, contacting them, asking them whether or not they'd be interested in helping you establish a mentoring relationship, and then going from there.
Let's see, another question is how can alumna contribute to AAP? I believe you already addressed this one. And then is this the only program is it only at UCLA? Sorry about that. Yeah, is this program only at UCLA?
If you're talking about the HIAMS or the mentoring program, as far as I know, we have some similar programs at different universities in different formats. In fact, there was a group that met not too long ago about pipeline programs, and these pipeline programs are hopefully being established at different universities and some community colleges even. But as far as I know, we're kind of a unique program in the sense that these programs have been around for a long time, and they continue to grow and flourish because of either student support or alumni support. So
Thank
hope
you.
I answered your question.
Let's see. We'll give them one more minute to type any further questions. I'm sorry, my chat box keeps jumping around, so if I missed your
Okay.
question, please type the question again, participants. But we'll give you one more minute to ask any additional questions. Okay, an additional question is, what if we feel intimidated by our mentor?
So if you establish a relationship with a mentor and there's this feeling of intimidation, I think you have to kind of step back and reflect on what it is that's making you feel that way. I mean, if it's a mentor in terms of their prestige or their power or their notoriety, because some people are very awed by that, and you get someone intimidated about not wanting to ask questions or engage. That's a good conversation to have with your mentor, because believe it or not, they will understand how you felt, because they were probably in that position once upon a time themselves. And if you have that kind of relationship where your dialogue is open, then hopefully you can get through that. And it doesn't have to be an in-person thing. You can email them and just say, Professor so and so or Dr. so and so or Mr. or Miss so and so, when we meet, sometimes I feel a little bit, because I feel intimidated. I don't know where it's coming from, but the whole point of having a mentor is to have this trusting, supportive relationship. And so if you have that, or if you enter into a mentor-mentee relationship, then you should be able to have that kind of that openness in your conversation. And so I would go about it that way, because it does happen. Intimidation does happen.
Let's see. How do you respectfully ask about the mentor's personal journey or what they are involved in if we are still in the beginnings of the relationship?
I'm sure they would be happy to tell you that. All the people that I invite to speak to students at UCLA, usually go about telling their own personal story. And the one way you can get them to do that is let them know, number one, I'm interested in the career that you're involved in right now, and I would just love to hear how you got involved. I mean, how did you choose your career? How did you get started? People love to talk about that. I do, and I'm sure other professional people do too. And it's just a way of sharing, information, wisdom, educating you on some of the highs and lows, because some people struggle to get to where they are. Some people had an easy path, but the point is that people will share their story if you ask them.
Okay. One other question. I think you've touched on this one already, but should I be looking for a mentor right now? And this is a person who is currently in high school.
I would, if you know exactly what you want to do, or you have some really strong thoughts about being a physician or a healthcare provider, dentist, PA, a physician assistant, whatever it may be, I would certainly seek them out now, because the sooner you do that, the more you get the experience of being around someone that's going to help you get to where you want to be. All right. Because early, as you know, getting started early never hurts anyone at anything. And by getting started early, you begin to build that relationship, and you start to begin to build a network with that relationship through that mentor. So definitely, if you find someone or you know someone, I would seek out a mentor. And sometimes mentors don't have to be career related. They could just be people that give you good advice on life. So that mentors are great. Mentors are good to have.
All right, Dr. Alexander, I don't think we have any more questions. Any parting thoughts?
No, I mean, as I mentioned, mentors in life are something that everyone has, regardless if you're young or regardless like like me. You continue to have mentors in your life, and some people have more than one mentor. Not necessarily a career mentor. It could be someone that mentors you on family life. It could be someone that mentors you on life in general. But if you have an opportunity, we can't go through this life and through this world alone. We really need a support network. And in addition to your family, a network of mentors is great to have, because you can always rely on somebody when you need them and to help you get through life. And so I would suggest that if you have the opportunity, and I would certainly encourage you to take the opportunity to establish a mentorship relationship with someone, whether it's a professional person or a friend of the family or someone that's going to guide you through life. So I wish you the best. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to share with you. And hopefully we'll get a chance to meet in person one day and get away from this Zoom atmosphere, okay? And I wish you all the best
Absolutely.
with the rest of your workshop today.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander. It's been a pleasure, and such a great session and great information for our participants. All right, everyone, our next session will start at 2:15. So we will, just like before, you can log out and log back in if you'd like, or you can stay online. We will have a screensaver up with some music playing in the meantime. Thank you.